All right, so now we're going to put the bin file and the license file in the temp directory on the jump server. So I already SCP'd those there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to copy them to the first node. All right, now that that's done, we're going to SSH to the first node. And then we're going to go to that root Cloudian tools directory. You'll see the two files there. We need to change mod the Cloudian bin file to make it executable. And then we're going to run this along the side of the license file, which is in lowercase. This will extract the binaries that are needed to start the installation process. And once that's done, we'll continue with the next step. And now it's done. Okay, now we're going to set up the topology file. And how we do that is we make sure we're in the staging directory. We're in the 825 staging directory. And now we're going to run system setup. Under this option, what we're going to do is we're going to select option 4. And then we're going to select A to set up a new topology for object nodes. We're going to confirm in the pre-installed checklist that the domain name is correct. In this example, we're using this one. And for the region name, we're going to use region/1. R1 won't work, it's too short. And since we're using a dash here, we're going to do the same thing for DC1 and go down the line here. We're going to do the same thing for rack, which isn't really used. Then we're going to start on our first node here. The first node, make sure we have everything consistent. It's going to be the DSK BD093 DC1 and the IP address. It picked it up, but that's not the right one. We're going through a service IP. So we're going to use the InfiniBand, the IB0, which if you looked at if you do an IPA on the node, they're all similar. IP0 we're going to use for the front end. IP1 we're going to use for the back end network. And then we're going to use that service IP. This is this one right here. We're going to use that strictly for the CMC or to SSH to the box for management. So what we're going to do here is we're going to look at the file and we're going to put in the front end or that IB0. On this node, it'll be 40.151. And then it's really important. This is the interface. Don't put an IP here because it'll break. So we want to make sure we put the IB1 here. Yes, we want to add another node. We're going to go down the line here, DC1. This one's next in order, but make sure you keep an eye on this. This is that front end. IB1 is fine. We're going to add another node. The name is correct, DC1. This one has a different IP, so we want to push this to this one. The interface is correct. We're going to hit yes on this. We're going to go 96, DC1, and this is going to be 214. That's correct. And the interface is correct, so we got 2 more to go. These have different names, so that's how they did it. So we're going to do this, DC1, and this is going to be 215, like it says. And the last one, 2, DC1. This is going to be 17, not 16. V1. And we're going to hit no. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to save the topology file. So we go here. We're going to go E to make sure everything looks okay. This looks correct. All the names, everything looks good. And then we're going to save it. Save, looks good. I'm going to exit. We have that topology file. And that is the step we ran through. And now that we did the topology file, we're going to go ahead and we're going to run the Cloudian install.sh, and we're going to use the parameter configure-fusion. First thing we need to do is we need to run the pre-installation check. We're going to select option 0. We're going to hit run pre-install checks. We're going to select R. The first time you do this, we need to put that password in. So the password that you specify, we're going to put that in. This is that root password. It's going to connect to the first node. And we're going to put the password in. Even if you mess up, I'm going to do it again. And we're going to go to the second node. It's going to prompt just the first time, and it's going to add it to the key file. Now on to the next one. And the next one. Got 2 more to go here. All right, hit any key. Now it's going to go through and do its pre-installation check. Going to check, make sure we can ping it. We're going to make sure we get SSH to it. We're going to make sure we have a minimum of 3 nodes. We're using 6. Make sure the drives are mounted that we created. So it just goes through and makes sure everything's okay. It's going to check at the host names. It looks good here. IP interfaces look good. Okay, so now we're going to actually kick off the actual installation. So we're going to make sure that we are in the Cloudian staging directory. And then once we know we're in the Cloudian staging directory, we are going to type in the /Cloudian install.sh, and we're going to create this option configure-fusion for the load balancing and DNS since it's internal. We're going to hit enter. We already did the pre-installation check and everything went good. So now we're going to just click option 1. We're going to use the key that's specified here. Hit yes. It's going to go through its checks. This process will probably take about 20 minutes. I'll talk through some of the portions, but most of the time when it's doing something, it'll just kind of go on mute. And this is normal because we're going to use the Fusion product, our HyperFusion product that we just released. So it'll have its own internal DNS. So it's going through, it will add it. If you didn't have that, it would fail because you would actually require DNS. Now this portion is very important. Since when we configure this, we are saying we're going to use the management port to use the CMC, which you'll see later after the install. But the front end, the IB0 will be the front end traffic. and then the IB1 will be your backend traffic. So we're going to put IB1 right here, and that is the interface for the backend, or what we say internal services. Now, if you look actually at your pre-installed checklist, which we have here, so the top level domain that we're going to use is the one you specified here in the pre-install checklist, which is how you're going to access if you had external DNS. The replication strategy, we're going to leave it default here. There's 3 replicas. We're going to use just the standard NTP. If you had your own custom NTP, you'd put it here. And the S3 endpoint in AWS speak, since we're S3, we're going to specify the region name. As here it says region-1. The R1 that you put in the document is not S3 friendly, or it's not in compliance. So I just put region-1. You can, if you had a different way you want to do this, you just make sure you specify that. So we're going to use region 1 for this example. Hit enter. The S3 website. So Cloudian by default supports static web pages onto the bucket. So we need a URL for that too. So this is what we're going to use here. And this is the admin endpoint. This is how you use the admin API. So that is the next piece here. And the IAM service, it requires its own endpoint. And then here's the CMC, which I'll show you at the end. This is how we actually log into the Cloudian Management Console. Now it's going to go through and start its process. It's going through installing all the prerequisites, the packages that's required. Now this is the portion where it's going to install the Fusion product. Now we're going to start the Cassandra portion. This will take about 5 or 10 minutes. And now we're running through the Cassandra process here. We're on the third node, and there's 3 more nodes to go through this installation process. This should probably take another 5 minutes or so. Now we're on the 4th one. And I believe this is the last node. Now we're loading the schema. This will probably take another 5 or 10 minutes. Now it's up and running. Now we're going to start the services. And looks like everything is complete. So the Cloudian install process is completed. Since I'm on a VPN, and this isn't a DNS, we're going to go to one of the IPs themselves. So we're going to connect to the service IPs, not the InfiniBand IPs. So give me a second here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to exit out of this. Installation is complete. And now we're going to go to a browser and we're going to type in the IP of 172.16.12 that we can use any of the nodes. I'm going to use probably 151 and just specify 8443. You're going to get this. There's no search. Hit advance and proceed. Give it a second. And this is what we call the Cloudian Management Console. So under the root account, make sure it's set the system admin. We're going to put in admin, and this is going to be public, I believe. And after public, you have to put a new password in. So I'm going to put public, and then we put a new password in here. I'm just going to put, and it has to have the case sensitive or anything, but I'll put a password in here. Save. And it's going to take a few minutes for this to populate. But the first thing you want to do to make sure everything's working, this is our dashboard. It's not quite, everything's not quite started yet. The first thing we want to do is we want to create what we call a storage policy. So here's the 6 nodes that we added. Here's the host names. Here's the services. Everything's in green. Looks very good. So you have that region and you have that data center here. First thing we have to do is we have to create what we call a storage policy. That's how the data is protected and distributed within the cluster. Once we create that storage policy, we assign it to a user, and then they can create a bucket. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a storage policy. We're going to create a group, and then with the group, we're going to create a user. And then with the user, we're going to log in as a user, and then we're going to create a bucket pointing to that storage policy, and then we're going to upload an object. So we'll do that real quick little test. So we can do erasure coding or RF. So we'll put EC here. Since we have 6 nodes, we can leverage a 4+2 configuration. We have more nodes, we can do more. But in that case, we have that. The other one's replicas. We can specify a group. We don't have any yet, but we're going to create that EC policy. I'm going to call it Erasure Coding 4+2. And just put EC42 here. Because now we can do these other options here too. We can discuss this later. But we support 3 different compression types. We also support server-side encryption or KMIP. Workload types are defined, predefined way we distribute the data within the metadata database. We'll just leave it default for now. The hybrid policy is if it goes below this threshold, it'll write in replicas. That's good for small objects, and you can point to a single policy. We'll just leave it default, and then the replicas, we'll just hit save. And it says created. And then we're going to create one more policy. We're going to call it RF3. And we're going to point to 3 replicas. And then we're going to save. So we're going to create 2 storage policies. Now we're going to go to users and groups. First, we got to create a group. New group. I'm just going to call it local users. Call it whatever you like, put a description in. Local users on the system. And then we're going to hit save. Once we have that group, we can assign a user to that group, like basically RBAC. We're going to go to local users here now. We're going to create new user. And I'm just going to call it user 1. Call whatever you like. And then specify the local user group here and put a password in here. And then you can hit save.
So now we created that user. As you can see here, if I hit search, you'll see that user here. You'll see their credentials here, access key, create a new key. We can see the secret key just like you have in AWS. What we're going to do now is we're going to create a bucket. So we need to log on as that user. So and we're going to go ahead and exit out of this. And everything is done, it's successful. We'll start on to the next step. All right, so now we're going to log on as that user. Put the password here. And what I want to do is I want to create two buckets, one with Erasure Coding and one with Replicas. So we're just going to call this EC bucket. We're going to enable Object Lock. We'll do it on the next one. EC, create, and then we're going to create RF3 bucket. We're going to make it RF3, and we'll enable Object Lock on this guy. This just tells you it will auto enable versioning, disable any kind of CRR, or any auto tearing to the bucket. And it's permanent. Okay. So let's go to the EC bucket first. And let's upload a file. Let's grab a not too large of a file. We'll grab this video I did. Give it a minute. This is going over the VPN, so this is using the S3 browser within the CMC. And it says upload is complete. And there it is. So let's go to the RF3 bucket, and we're gonna upload an object. I'll grab something a little smaller, like this protection schema. All right, so now we have two objects successfully uploaded to both. And you can see I have two different buckets here with two different teams. So one thing I want to show you as an admin, we can actually see the protection schema. So we're going to log in as the admin. And you can now see it's more popular at 1.6 petabytes. You have one user. This is the version, 6 nodes. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go to analytics. And we're going to do this object locator, which is a really cool feature. So if we go back here, EC bucket, I'm going to put the bucket name here, EC bucket. And then we're going to put the actual name. It has to be exact name. So I copied this. And then hit find. What it'll show is it's using Erasure Coding, EC, and it shows you all 6 fragments. So you see, and then since the S3 protocol supports multi-part upload, you can see the different 6 parts here. So you can see all the parts and all the fragments on the system and how it's protected on the disk. It's pretty cool. Now let's go back to RF3 bucket, and we'll show you the replicas. RF3 bucket. And now you're going to see replicas, the version IDs. And you can see there's 3 different replicas here. So what I wanted to kind of show was that capability. And there's a lot more features with the product. It just kind of gives you a high level, a couple things that you can do. All right, we're going to go ahead and log off. And also we have alerts. We have other options as well. We can go over that in on-site or another session. And we also have this rich help file, which is dynamic as well. And you can kind of go through this as well on all the different features like having the help guide right at your fingertips. All right, if you have any other questions, let me know. Thanks again for watching.